Okay, we might get started. Hi, everyone. I'm Leanne Coombe, the Program Manager for Research and Knowledge Translation at the Lowitja Institute. I'd like to begin by acknowledging we're all joining from unceded country. As a national organisation, we acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands across Australia and pay our respects to their elders past and present. I'm joining you today from the lands of the Turrbal peoples on the north side of Meanjin, Brisbane, but also acknowledge the Jagera peoples who are also traditional owners of Meanjin. I encourage you all to introduce yourself in the chat now, and would love it if you could also include the country where you are dialing in from, just so we know who is online. At the moment, the speakers are being spotlighted, but later on we will turn that off once we finish the formal part of the presentation for the Q&A session, so that we can start up a dialogue. But if you have questions that you want to ask throughout, I'd also encourage you to put those in the chat because we will be monitoring those and come back to them. So I'd also like to acknowledge that we are coming together today for this meeting during NAIDOC Week, which, as we know, this year marks a powerful 50-year milestone and celebrates not only the achievements of the past, but the bright future ahead, empowered by the strength of our young leaders, the vision of our communities, and the legacy of our ancestors. And speaking of legacy, the Lowitja Institute is, of course, named in honour of our patron, the late Dr. Lowitja O'Donoghue, AC, CBE, DSG, whose work forged new paths for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and laid the foundations for what has become Australia's only National Institute for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health research. We would also like to acknowledge our co-patron, Pat Anderson, AO. Established in January 2010, the Lowitja Institute is dedicated to improving the health and well-being of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples through high-impact research, knowledge translation, and by supporting a new generation of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health researchers. The Lowitja Institute operates on key principles of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leadership, a broad understanding of health that incorporates well-being, and the need for the work to have a clear and positive impact. While the Lowitja Institute was officially established in January 2010, its history dates to 1997, when the first Cooperative Research Centre for Aboriginal and Tropical Health was established. Following subsequent CRCs, the Lowitja Institute became a community-controlled organisation and established a member base led by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander representatives in 2020. This transformation reinforced its commitment to Indigenous-led research and supported the growth of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander researchers and organisations across Australia. The Lowitja Institute funds innovative and impactful research projects that are grounded in addressing crucial community priorities to benefit health and wellbeing outcomes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. These initiatives are funded through major research grants, our GLOWS grant program, and the seeding grants we are here to talk about today. As a community-controlled organisation with funding from the Department of Health, our key partners are the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community-controlled sector. The Lowitja way is how we do things. We aim to ensure funding goes to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community-controlled organisations, and our projects are led by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have been creating and passing down knowledge for thousands of years, creating ecosystems of knowledge production, and sharing is a part of that history. The Lowitja Institute research and knowledge translation cycle starts with the leadership and decision-making of the Lowitja Institute community-controlled governance structure. The soil is prepared representative of the conference phase. Our research agenda is set at the Lowitja Institute conference. Here, participants at the conference learn about our funded project outcomes, engage on key research topics, and listen to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander thought leaders. The conference culminates in a collective statement which influences our research themes. Next is the commissioning phase. The seeds are planted when our seeding grants are advertised. This is the opportunity for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander researchers, organisations and communities to seed an idea. This leads us to where we are today, hosting the second of two of our Q&A information sessions. It's our aspiration that these ideas are nurtured and develop into a major grant, a process that aims to increase opportunities and enhance research capabilities that reflect the priorities of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. To support this aspiration, we've developed the Lowitja approach to commissioning and measuring research impact. Major grant applicants are assessed, with successful ones moving to the awards phase. Here, funds are awarded to successful applicants, enabling them to nurture and grow their research ideas. During this phase, contract negotiations take place. During the milestone phase, the project ideas grow and mature as they complete each research milestone. We track the impact of projects through our operation and reporting tools. This is supported by the Lowitja Institute training and capability building tools, which cover many themes. Project milestones are reached by working together with the project teams, who we provide with unique support and resources for planning knowledge translation. This assists us to communicate the research and knowledge, ensuring it can be translated effectively into health policy and practice, and most importantly, improved health outcomes. The knowledge translation phase allows for the different fruits of our work to be shared. Importantly, knowledge translates out to our networks and communities. During the knowledge translation phase, plans are being implemented to translate knowledges, including presenting at the Lowitja Institute International Health and Wellbeing Conference. And then our cycle begins all over again. As all the connected cycle phases continue to evolve and flourish, a research and knowledge translation ecosystem emerges. At the Lowitja Institute, we centre Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ways of knowing, being and doing, honouring these ancient ways throughout this cycle and acknowledging that this cycle occurs in and is therefore influenced by an ever-changing environment. So I'll now hand back to Kirtley to walk us through what you need to know to prepare for a seeding grant application. So over to you. Thanks, Kirtley.
Thanks, Leanne, and I'd also like to extend that acknowledgement and pay my respects to the lands that you're all joining us from today, and acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past and present. So Lowitja Institute's research agenda is underpinned by a rigorous approach to research that adheres to the Institute's research principles of beneficence, to act for the benefit of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the conduct of our research, leadership by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, engagement of research end users, which is Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander organisations and communities, policymakers, and other potential research users, the development of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander the development of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander research workforce, and also measurement of impact in improving Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's health. So Lowitja Institute's research agenda is built on key priorities identified by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We aim to produce high impact research, tools and resources that will have positive health outcomes for Australia's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. So the Institute facilitates engagement between Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, tertiary education, medical research institutions, government and partner organisations to maximise the impact of research, knowledge and innovation. And importantly, the Institute drives our research agenda by ensuring that the research we fund is led and owned by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and communities. Recently, during the Lowachi Institute's 4th International Indigenous Health and Wellbeing Conference, delegates were engaged to vote on the 2027 to 2029 research priorities, and with the following being identified. This was sovereignty and self-determination, leadership and decolonisation, culturally responsive systems and workforce, as well as culture and community. So when you are submitting your application, it's really good to align your research idea to one of these 4 priorities. So as we do move into a bit more of a focus on the seeding grants round itself, I'll provide a bit more of an overview of the seeding grants themselves with their purpose, eligibility overview, as well as the funding streams will be opening, along with some application tips and key dates to remember. So our applications will be opening on the 18th of August 2025 and closing on the 26th of September. Through October to November, we'll be conducting an assessment review with the approval of applications. And then December 2025 to January 2026 is when we'll notify all applicants of their outcome of the application. And then symposium dates and locations will be announced. And February is when contracts are signed. And then by June 2026, the Stream 2 funding term ends. And don't worry, I'll put this slide up again shortly, just so if you missed these, you'll have another opportunity coming up as well. So the Lowachi Institute seeding grants aim to empower Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community-controlled organisations to grow small ideas, transform and action research from community priorities into meaningful research projects. And it's focusing on concepts and topics that can be researched, obviously. They meet the needs of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. They result in improvements in health and wellbeing outcomes. They aim to validate the research concept idea to then develop an application for a major grants program in 2026. And as I mentioned previously, they align with one of the 2027 to 2029 research agenda priorities. One way that I've understood the seeding grants is their purpose is if we look through a project management lens, and it's ensuring that the scope is specific to testing the idea and building the evidence for a pathway to growing it. And it's through that journey, it could identify areas such as pivoting or persevering the focus of research to then be more refined or broadened pending the outcomes of your research project. So the seeding grants are curated specifically to start the journey of research with these points in mind. And this grant round will open 2 funding streams to eligible applicants who may have or have not led a research project before. So these streams play hand in hand to providing successful applicants the opportunity to gain the knowledge, guidance and support, and also to build, test and analyse their research topic on a smaller scale and a shorter time frame. The Lowachi Institute's 2025 seeding grants for our grant round will only be awarded to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community-controlled organisations. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community-controlled organisations are encouraged to apply for funding themselves or in partnership with other appropriate organisations and/or institutions. And just to note as well that there are no formal research qualifications required. So to be eligible for a seeding grant, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community-controlled organisation must not be a current recipient of a Lowachi Institute grant. So for this round of seeding grants, we'll open 2 funding streams. Stream 1 is the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Seeding Symposium, and Stream 2 is the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Community Seeding Grant. So the symposium's aim is to provide Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander participants from ANACO the foundational knowledge and support to develop and lead research for their community. And it's a chance to come together over 2 days and share experiences and knowledge of undertaking research in the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health research sector. It's also a chance to work alongside senior Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander research leaders to address topics such as developing research ideas, research ethics, and knowledge translation. This symposium aims to build on community priorities to develop a program of research for submission to a major grants program. We, the Lowitja Institute, will convene and manage the logistics, travel, and accommodation to our symposium, and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Seeding Symposium will occur in the first half of 2026, but no later than June 2026. And as I mentioned in those key dates earlier, the location and dates are announced upon the completion of the assessment process. So the Community Seeding Grant aims to provide Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community-controlled organisations the opportunity to identify or explore a research priority within the community. And this funding will contribute to bringing together key stakeholders and partners to develop a research project that's ready to be undertaken. So the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Community Seeding Grant will award up to $35,000 in funding that will be used by June 2026, and with successful applicants required to develop a research proposal at the end of the seeding grant period and apply for a major grants program. So applicants are encouraged to ensure you have read the grant guidelines carefully to develop a thorough understanding of the grant application process and its requirements. So before you do begin your application, please remember that your organisation needs to meet the eligibility for the seeding grant stream you wish to apply for. The research project aligns most closely with one of the Lowitja Institute's research agenda themes. You address each of the application questions and have all required documentation for the seeding grant stream. You review the application timeline, as there will be no application extensions available, and you will need to complete and submit your application through our Smarty Grants online application portal. So the Smarty Grants online portal requires frequent saving to keep your application as up to date as possible, and it's recommended that every 10 minutes or so you save your submission and refresh your application portal. So once you have submitted your application, the system will send you an automated email including an application number and a copy of your completed application form. If you didn't receive this email, you may not have submitted your application correctly, and it's worth noting that once you do get to the end of the application, it's good to go right to the review and submit tab to ensure that you submit it correctly. So Lowitja Institute's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Seeding Grants round is open and competitive round. And this is the assessment process is designed to ensure research excellence and rigor, as well as privilege Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives through high impact research. The process will include an internal assessment of all applications for eligibility once the funding round closes. All eligible applications will progress to peer review by a panel, which comprises of senior Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander researchers, Lowitja Institute staff, and board members. So applications will be scored and ranked based on the assessment criteria, and recommendations for funding will be considered and approved by Lowitja Institute Board of Directors. And successful and unsuccessful applicants will be notified in writing via email. And it's important to note that all successful applications will have 10 business days from the email, including public holidays, to respond to Lowitja Institute, advising of acceptance of grant funds by signing the acceptance of grant offer. And also noting that Lowitja Institute's Chief Executive Officer and Board of Directors are the final decision makers and will consider the recommendations of the assessment panel and make a decision. We, the research and knowledge translation team, may request further advice or clarification from applicants during that assessment process as well. So just to give you a bit more of a reminder again on those key dates, before we do move into our Q&A session, or section of this information session. I'll leave it there for a couple of seconds before we do move to the next part. So do you have any questions? Feel free to pop it in the chat, or if you do have any questions, to unmute your mic and feel free to ask away.
Just while we're waiting for some questions to come through, I might just ask some questions that came through from the last session last week. Firstly, can individuals or consultants apply?
So no individuals, consultants, government bodies, schools, universities. Sorry, no, it's only. Let me get that one right. Sorry. So no, sorry, to answer your question, individuals, consultants cannot apply. So that includes government bodies, schools, universities, for-profit entities, and organisations with outstanding grant obligations are not eligible.
Just another one. Oh wait, we have a question that's come through.
Yep.
Can you provide some examples of previous seed grants that were successful?
Thanks. What was the question? Thanks, Emma. That was a really good question.
Just go in and pull up some examples for you, Kirtley, if there's another question that someone wants to ask.
I'll ask a question. Hi there. Coming from Wadawurrung traditional owners in Ballarat and Geelong. Can you apply with a university partner already established, or is it really just, is that something the grant would help with once you've scoped the research? Because it would be good to have some help with, you know, kind of finding partners, I suppose, suitable partners, and scoping the research. Because, you know, starting from a very low base.
So thanks, Jane. Are you asking more in terms of the application would be in partnership with the university, or is it more discussing their support?
That's about right, because we need to start talking to, and we are already talking to a few different universities to help us scope the research, but do we apply having established that partnership, or can you apply without that, with the view to seek funding to then be able to pay a consultant / university partner? Is that a hard question? Sorry, Kirtley.
No, that's a really good question. I think it's good to sort of ask, but suppose and how that would look.
And answering that question on example of previous seed grants, that would be really helpful, because then it would we would get an idea of whether or not what the funding can be used for.
Yeah,
I suppose.
In terms of what funding can be used for, so that could look at things such as hiring researchers, consultants, or facilitators.
Okay.
We could look at community workshops, domestic travel for research, project-specific equipment and materials.
Okay.
Participant reimbursements, but also project admin as well, noting that that's only 20% of the total budget as well.
Okay, 20%. Yeah, that's always a question, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, that's really helpful. Yep.
And supposed to say what can't the funds be used for is obviously capital works or property purchases, international travel, ongoing salaries or operational expenses, political or commercial activities, equipment like computers, unless it's directly tied to the research, or costs of preparing the application itself.
Oh yeah, okay. So the scope you could actually get funding to develop the scope. You could have a really high level scope, but you could get funding to further develop that scope. You probably would want to know what you want to do, but how you're going to do it could be something the research funding could support. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably worth noting as well, as long as it's Aboriginal led by the applicant organisation as well.
Sure. Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
In answer to the question that was in the chat from Emma, we had only one community grant in the last round that was awarded to a community. It was awarded to a really remote community out in the central area of Australia, and they were looking at measuring and evaluating impacts of some of the programs based on a framework that they had built previously around domains of life and well-being. So that was what they were using theirs for. We only had a very small number that also applied for the symposium to work up their ideas. So there's only been a small number of grants so far, which is why I had to go looking. We're a lot more familiar with the major grants than we are the seeding grants. So hopefully that answered your question.
Do we have any more questions?
Again, while we're waiting, I might just ask another question from last week as well.
Yep.
Came through. Can we apply for both streams?
So no, you may only be able to apply for one of the streams per round.
Curtly, I'm wondering whether it might be helpful to run through the kind of list of documentation that organisations need to provide when they're putting in an application.
Yep, definitely. So all applicants must provide a certificate of incorporation, also answers to application questions with a 300-word maximum per question, the project plan and budget for stream 2 only, insurance documentation and risk management. And noting that the project plan and budget are provided in the Smarty Grants application portal as well.
Okay, we've had another question come through in the chat. Thanks, Emma. So is there a timeline on when projects must be completed? She also mentioned that last year it was a 3-month project timeline.
Yep, thanks, Emma. Another great question. So the projects will be working towards the end of June as the timeline, but it's more of the 3 to 4 month period, noting that it was 3 months project period last time, so it's along the lines of 3 to 4 months this time as well.
Another one that was helpful last week, I think, Curtly, was the question around the assessment criteria. Do you want to talk through a little bit more about how the applications will be assessed and against what criteria?
Yeah, definitely. So What other key assessment criteria is? Well, for stream 1, the setting symposium, which will look at clear community priority and alignment to the research agenda, and is a 6% weight. The research workforce and development and impact is 40%. For stream 2, the community setting grant, it looks at community impact and leadership at 40%. Research workforce development and partnerships for 30% of the marking, and feasibility and readiness for a major grant, which is also 30%. Thanks, Janie, and thanks for joining us today.
We did have another question. Again, this is while we're waiting if there's any more questions to come through in the chat. Who should be the chief investigator if you're applying for stream 2?
So thanks, Chantel. So an Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander person from the applying community controlled organisation must be the chief investigator. Or, yeah.
Sorry, can you just repeat that on chief investigator? What was the?
Yep. So for stream 2.
Yep.
So an Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander person from the applying community controlled organisation must be the chief investigator.
Okay. Yeah. And just one other thing. I think I've sent the message through to Emma. Sorry, Emma. You'll send through a recording of this one so I can send to the staff internally here. Yeah.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, definitely. And we'll be definitely reaching out with some further information as well with how you can contact us.
Yeah.
But suppose that will bring us to the next part of our session, which is to close it there and just to leave some information on how you can get in touch with us as well for further information. Might be able to chuck that email into the chat just so you can copy it directly. Otherwise, you can also visit our Lower website with the link that's on screen as well, which we can put in the chat as well. But we'll also follow up with an email just to repeat and remind you of the key information that was mentioned today, and just to ensure that we've given you the best opportunity to be able to apply for a seeding grant for 2025. But thanks again for joining us today. We hope you enjoy the rest of your native week, wherever you are joining us from. Stay safe and talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.